Chinese and Russian satellites secretly supplied Iran with key data to help target US military bases, according to intelligence reports. It comes as Xi Jinping menacingly warned that the Western world order is crumbling.
Yeah, it's very significant that China is getting involved in supporting Iran's military activities, both with supplying equipment and supplying intelligence as well. Now, China will be using this to test some of the capabilities that they've got. They'll be using it to try and help Iran, because we've got this CRINC countries, where it's China, Russia, Iran and North Korea coming together and helping each other in different conflicts. So it's China is helping Russia with its war in Ukraine. Russia is helping Iran, as is China, and we've seen Russian technology in some of the Shahad 136 drones that Iran has been firing at different Middle East countries. One that was fired at the UK sovereign base area in Cyprus had Russian guidance technologies in it. So it shows that there's an awful lot of swapping of military capabilities around those four countries.
He's somebody I get along with very well. He just wrote me a beautiful letter.
He wrote you a letter?
Yeah, he did. He responded to a letter that I wrote because I had heard that China is giving weapons to you're seeing it all over the place, to Iran, that China's giving weapons.
Did he say he's giving them?
Yeah, and I wrote him a letter asking him not to do that. And he wrote me a letter saying that essentially he's not doing that.
China's watching what is going on very closely indeed. The Middle East, they've got a vested interest. They get 40% of their oil and gas through the Strait of Hormuz. And therefore they will have their spy satellites watching everything that's going on. And this relationship that there is between China, Russia, Iran and North Korea, China will have given and has given the Iranians access to some of the intelligence that its spy satellites are gathering. I am pretty certain that Russia will have done the same thing. And therefore, Donald Trump, his capabilities are being attacked, or those that are attacking it are being supported directly by China and by Russia. A strategic win for China will be getting the Strait of Hormuz open again. I'm slightly surprised that China hasn't got more involved in what the international community is trying to do and put pressure on the United States to go back on and to stop its conflict. I'm surprised that China hasn't come in and tried to help negotiate on Iran's behalf to get the Strait of Hormuz open, because if I was Xi Jinping, I would see an opportunity here to negotiate a peace settlement, bringing Iran on side, open the Strait of Hormuz so the international community thinks that's good. But more importantly, that would mean that the Gulf countries would think it's brilliant, and it would allow me an opportunity to exploit a relationship into the Gulf countries that the United States currently enjoys. There's an opportunity there for China, and I don't quite understand why Xi Jinping hasn't taken it. Well, the Western world order crumbling, I think he's referring to the fact that Donald Trump is making all the sounds that he's going to reduce the US's commitment to NATO or withdraw from NATO. And therefore, that is the single biggest and most successful defence pact that there's been ever. And with America becoming more isolationist, and the potential for them to withdraw from NATO, and we're seeing a lot of indecision across the EU countries when it comes to defence, and we're seeing China's influence grow across Africa into Southern America and Central America. At the same time, whilst the United States is becoming more isolationist, Donald Trump seems to be starting conflicts around the world and then threatening other conflicts, like he's threatening to attack Greenland, which is part of a NATO country. You put all of that together and look at it through a fairly simplistic lens, and that's why they will come up with the assessment that the world order is changing. Xi Jinping is sitting back very quietly at the minute, and just watching it, which, it's interesting to see what he's doing. He's looking for his opportunities. He sees the West effectively beating itself to death, bankrupting itself economically, reducing its military stockpiles with all the conflicts that are ongoing and it's supporting, and he doesn't have to do anything.
Days after the US and Israel launched strikes on Iran last month, American intelligence detected signs the conflict could widen beyond the battlefield. Officials said China was considering supplying advanced radar systems to Tehran, which could help detect and track US and Israeli forces.
Well, the advanced radar systems are something that are critical whenever it comes to trying to monitor the activity that's going through your airspace. And Iran at the minute has lost all of its radar capability. So the United States has almost got total air superiority over Iran. And that is something these advanced radar systems would help the Iranians by giving them insight as to what the Americans are doing. Now, what are the Chinese going to get out of it? The Chinese will get the ability to carry out combat testing of their radar systems and match those against US aircraft and other US weapons like their cruise missiles, so they can pick up this understanding of what the radar profile is like and therefore use that to further enhance and change the technologies to make them better at dealing with potential US threats. So this is significant if they do provide those radars.
Well, as you know, President Trump has a very strong and direct relationship with President Xi. And they've communicated on that, and China has assured us that that indeed is not going to happen, and in the spirit of the meeting they'll have next month. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
China and Russia's support, when does it become active participation? I would argue that they are actively participating now. We are seeing Russian technologies in Iranian drones. We're seeing Russian targeting information being provided to the Iranians. We're seeing Chinese intelligence and targeting information being provided to the Iranians that they're using against the Americans. If the Chinese start to provide military hardware as well, there's no other way than you can define it as their direct involvement. In the same way that the UK is directly involved in supporting the United States with its actions into Iran. And we always have been, no matter what our Prime Minister says, because we've allowed the Americans to take the logistic stocks that have been held in the UK or elsewhere, or to fly their spy planes out of Cyprus in the preparation for their war, as well as during the battle damage assessment and further intelligence gathering. So, China and Russia are as involved in the war in Iran as the UK and many European countries are involved in the war in Iran. Well, I'm surprised that Donald Trump hasn't retaliated against Russia and China over this. It seems that whenever he was challenged about it, he turned around and said about the Russians, he said, well, they're providing this support to Iran, we provide support to the Ukrainians. So, it's evens. Whether he'll do the same about the Chinese or not, I don't know. Donald Trump's off to see Xi Jinping in the next couple of weeks. I think this is something that he will bring up behind closed doors, but I don't think Donald Trump will threaten Xi Jinping. So we may hear some hot air, we may hear nothing. Who knows with what's going on in Donald Trump's mind?